Have you ever walked into a forest where even the birds refuse to sing? Imagine taking one wrong step and realizing that something has been watching you long before you arrived. Tonight's story is about a place so terrifying that the people living nearby refuse to speak its name after sunset. This is the chilling legend of the Witch of Black Hollow Forest. On the edge of a quiet village stood Black Hollow Forest, a place covered in thick black trees that blocked almost every ray of sunlight. Even during the brightest afternoons, the forest looked like midnight. Travelers always avoided it because strange whispers floated through the air, shadows moved without anyone nearby, and people who entered alone often never returned. The villagers believed an ancient witch lived deep inside the forest. They said she had once been a kind healer many centuries ago, helping the sick with magical herbs and mysterious potions. But when greedy villagers accused her of dark magic and burned her home to the ground, she disappeared into the forest forever. Years later, people began hearing an old woman's laughter echoing between the trees every night. Since then, no one dared enter Black Hollow Forest after sunset. One cold autumn evening, a curious young photographer named Ethan arrived in the village. He loved exploring haunted places and never believed ghost stories. When the villagers warned him about the witch, he laughed and said every scary legend had a simple explanation. Carrying only his camera, flashlight, and backpack, Ethan walked toward Black Hollow Forest just before sunset. As soon as he crossed the old wooden bridge leading into the forest, everything became strangely quiet. The wind stopped blowing, the insects stopped buzzing, even his own footsteps sounded strangely distant. Ethan smiled nervously and continued deeper into the darkness. The tall, twisted trees seemed to lean toward him, like giant monsters reaching with crooked fingers. Strange symbols were carved into the tree trunks, glowing faintly under the fading light. Suddenly, he heard soft footsteps behind him. He quickly turned around, but nobody was there. Thinking it was only an animal, Ethan kept walking, but the footsteps returned, matching his every move. Every time he stopped, they stopped too. Every time he walked faster, they followed. His confidence slowly disappeared. A thick white fog suddenly rolled across the ground, swallowing the narrow path behind him. Ethan tried using his phone's GPS, but the screen turned completely black before shutting off. His flashlight began flickering, creating dancing shadows that seemed almost alive. Then he heard it. A soft voice whispered his name. Ethan. He froze. Nobody in the village had followed him. Nobody should have known where he was. The whisper came again, closer this time. Ethan. His heart pounded as he spun around, shining the flashlight through the fog. Standing between two dead trees was an old woman wearing a long black cloak. Her pale face looked cracked like broken porcelain. Her eyes glowed with an unnatural green light, and her long grey hair floated as though underwater. She smiled, revealing sharp black teeth. Ethan raised his camera and quickly took a picture. The flash exploded across the darkness. But when he looked at the camera screen, the woman wasn't standing 20 feet away anymore. She was directly behind him. Ethan slowly turned around, but the witch had vanished. Suddenly, icy fingers touched his shoulder. He screamed and ran as fast as he could through the forest. Branches scratched his face while roots grabbed at his feet. The witch's laughter echoed from every direction, making it impossible to know where she was hiding. No matter which path Ethan chose, he somehow returned to the exact same clearing with a giant dead oak tree standing in the center. Hanging from its branches were dozens of old lanterns glowing with green fire. Under the tree stood the witch once again. This time she spoke clearly. Everyone who enters Black Hollow Forest leaves something behind. Ethan tried to run away, but his legs refused to move. The witch slowly raised one thin hand, and the glowing lanterns began swinging without any wind. One by one, ghostly faces appeared inside each lantern, silently staring at Ethan. Their mouths opened together, whispering the same words. "Stay forever." Ethan closed his eyes and remembered something an old villager had told him before he entered the forest. The witch feeds on fear. Never let her see you surrender. Gathering every bit of courage he had left, Ethan stood up and looked directly into the witch's glowing eyes. Instead of running, he calmly walked toward her. The witch's smile slowly disappeared. Her body began fading into thick black smoke. The lanterns shattered one after another, releasing the trapped spirits into the night sky. The forest shook violently as loud screams echoed through the darkness. Suddenly, the fog disappeared. Ethan found himself standing near the old wooden bridge where he had first entered the forest. It was now sunrise. Shaking with fear, he rushed back to the village. When the villagers saw his terrified face, they knew exactly where he had been. Ethan showed them every photograph from his camera, but every single picture was completely black except the final one. In the last image stood Ethan beside the bridge, exhausted and frightened. Behind him, hidden in the morning mist, the witch smiled directly at the camera with her glowing green eyes. Nobody could explain how she had followed him out of Black Hollow Forest. From that day forward, Ethan never spoke about ghosts again. He locked the final photograph inside a wooden box and refused to look at it. But every year on the same autumn night, strange scratching sounds came from inside the box, followed by a familiar whisper calling his name. Some legends say the photograph still exists today, waiting for someone curious enough to open the box. And if you ever hear an old woman whisper your name while walking through a silent forest, whatever you do, don't turn around, because she might already be standing right behind you. If you enjoyed this scary story, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell for more terrifying horror stories every week. See you in the next nightmare.